Hello, this is Benjamin from English Classes Online, and in today's lesson, we are going to look at the basics of the Ielts test. I'm going to show you the key things you must know about the Ielts test. Let's begin by taking a quick look at the agenda for this lesson. I like setting agenda for my lessons because it enables me to cross-check and know when we have done what we are supposed to do. Now we have five main items on this agenda. Number one, what is Ielts? Number two, how does Ielts evaluate your English language skills? Number three, types of Ielts in terms of agencies, tests, and mode of delivery. Number four, Ielts structure and exam pattern. Then we are going to examine this in terms of the four modules in focus: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And number five, Ielts results and scores. So let's quickly begin with the first items. What is Ielts? Ielts, which is IELTS, stands for International English Testing System. It is a proficiency test for non-native speakers. Now, what does proficiency mean? Proficiency simply means how good you are in something, how good you are in the use of English. That is exactly what this is meant to test. And who are the non-native speakers? The non-native speakers are people from all countries where English is not spoken as the first language. English native speaking countries are UK, US, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and a few others. So if you are not from any of the English native speaking countries and you want to go and study in any of those countries like Canada, UK, US, Australia, and so on, you must take the Ielts test to prove your proficiency in the use of English. That's what Ielts is all about. Now, how Ielts evaluates your English language skills? Ielts tests are designed to evaluate your English on the basis of four language skills: speaking, writing, listening, and reading. And these are sub-classified into productive skills and receptive skills. Now you can see, as you can see on the screen, the the productive skills include speaking and writing, and the receptive skills include listening and reading. If you are speaking, you are producing language, and the person who is listening is receiving the language. If you are listening, you are receiving the language from the person who is speaking the language or who has spoken it if it is in audio form. Then writing is a productive skill because when you write, you produce language. Reading is receptive because when you are reading, you are not the one who produced it. You are reading what someone else has read. So that is how it is. And then in terms of how Ielts evaluates these skills, listening and reading are evaluated in a similar manner or with similar criteria. For example, both listening and reading have 40 questions, and each question carries one, attracts one answer, and of course carries one mark or score if you like. So if you score 40 over 40, you will obtain band 9, which is the highest band, the highest score, and so on and so forth. So the same thing applies to both listening and reading. Now, because both are receptive skills, now how does Ielts evaluate your productive skills, writing and speaking? There are four criteria for scoring your performance in each productive skill. In writing, one of the criteria is vocabulary. And in speaking, one of the criteria is fluency. There are, of course, other criteria, 4 of them, to evaluate or assess your performance in each module or in each area of skill, all right? Now, let's look at types of Ielts, beginning with agencies. There are 2 types of agencies that conduct Ielts tests. They are IDP and British Council. So you can book your test with any of them. You can book your test with IDP. You may also book your test with the British Council. And there's no major difference between the IDP and the British Council because the exam format and the questions are the same on a particular date of the exam. So if both agencies are conducting an exam in different parts of the world on a certain day, then the entire exam has the same content. All right, so that is the way it is. Now, types of Ielts tests. We have 2 main types of Ielts tests, the Ielts Academic and the Ielts General. Now, the Ielts Academic is for study, for those who are looking for admission into colleges and universities abroad in those English native speaking countries, all right? And then the Ies General is for work, for those who want to go and live and work in any of those countries. Now, take note of the fact that if you want to go and study abroad, but you take the general IELTS test instead of the academic, which is for study, even if you score the highest mark, you obtain band 9 in that general IELTS test, the university you are applying to will not accept that test because it is invalid. So you have to make sure you take the appropriate test for the appropriate purpose. You have to be sure of what you are going to do in that country. If you are going to study, you need the IELTS academic study. And apart from study, if you are going to practice any of the major professions like medicine, law, accounting, you also need the academic IELTS test. So make sure you go for the appropriate test, because if you go for the wrong one, it will be a huge waste of time and money, because it won't be accepted. If you take the academic test, whereas you are going to work in that country, then of course your employers may not accept the IELTS academic. So make sure you go for the appropriate test. Now, if you look at the infographic, you see the 2 major types of IELTS tests displayed: IELTS academic, IELTS general. Now, let's look at types of IELTS in terms of the mode of delivery. You can choose to take the IELTS on paper or on a computer. You know, for both general training and for academic tests, you can choose whether to take the paper test or the computer delivered test. But one thing is clear: the test format, the question types, and the time allowed for each test, and the content is the same for both the computer and the paper test. So you choose the one you want. The difference may probably lie in the kind of experience you get. Well, there is a difference in terms of, if you are taking the paper test, in the listening, for example, as you listen to the questions, you enter the answers into your question booklet, after which you are given 10 minutes to transfer your answers from the question paper to the answer sheets. This doesn't arise in the computer test because as the questions appear on your screen, you are expected to type your answers directly into your computer system. So there are some differences like that, but the questions are the same, okay? Now, you can look at the Ies structure. The 4 modules are displayed, as you can see in the infographic here. The listening and the speaking modules are the same for both the Ies Academic and the Ies General. But reading and writing are different, for each type of text. Although there are similarities, because in reading you can see 3 sections, 40 questions, and time allowed is 60 minutes. The same thing you have, but the questions will differ. You look at the writing you can see that on the left-hand side, okay, you will find for academic, all right. What are you looking at there? Task 1 will be a report. Task 2 will be essay. Writing for general training, task 1 will be letter writing, task 2 will be essay writing. So slight differences. Now let's look at the Ies exam pattern. It is the same thing we have already looked at, but let's look at them more specifically. Now, listening, time allowed is 30 minutes. It has 4 sections and 4 questions will occur. In writing, you have 60 minutes allowed, that's 1 hour. It has 3 sections and you have 40 questions. In reading, you have 60 minutes, 2 tasks that you have to perform. Task 1 requires you to do 150 words within 20 minutes, and task 2 requires you to do 250 words in 40 minutes. Now, in speaking, you have between 11 to 14 minutes for the test, and then it has 3 parts, and it involves a face-to-face interview with an Ies examiner. Okay. Now, the next one, we now look at these different modules one by one. We begin with the Ies listening module. Of course, listening will be the first test on this day. In listening, you will listen to audio prompts and then answer the questions. Listening can be a bit difficult because of the accent. You'll be listening to the accent of a native speaker, probably the British accent, and of course, this could give you some difficulty if you are a second language English user. However, all you need to do is to listen attentively, because there is general intelligibility when you look at the various varieties of English spoken in various parts of the world. If an English speaker from America is speaking, you can understand. Likewise, an English speaker from Canada, once you are an English speaker from any part of the world, you can hear what another English speaker from another part of the world is saying. So that actually is what you need to understand. So once you listen attentively, you'll be able to hear the audio prompts. And there are 4 sections. The first section is the easiest, and the last section is the most difficult, which means you expect that when you start answering questions in section 1, you will find the questions relatively easier than what you will expect in section 4. Now, make sure you write the answers in the question booklet. While you are listening to the audio, the question booklet is right in front of you. So enter the answers directly in your question booklet. And as you answer the questions while listening, you will be given time in the end of it. You'll be given about 10 minutes to transfer the answers from the question booklet to the answer sheet, which will be provided to you. Now, Let's look at Ies Reading Model. This is different for both general and academic tests. Their questions differ, even though when you look at this, you have several similarities. 60 minutes allowed on each side, whether academic or general, 40 questions for each side. Then you will expect 3 long reading passages with tasks for each of them. Of course, then there is difference in terms of the text. The text for academic range from descriptive and factual to discursive and analytical. Then, of course, in terms of the general, you have, section 1 contains 2 or 3 short factual tests. Section 2 contains 2 short work-related factual tests, because this test is meant for those who want to work. Okay, and so there are slight differences and a number of similarities. Now, this is exactly what to expect. Now, reading has 3 reading passages and 40 questions. Make sure you write the answers directly on the answer sheet. This is not like the listening module where you will be given extra time to transfer your answers from the question booklet into the answer sheets. No, in reading, you won't be given any extra time. So as you read, you enter your answers directly in the answer sheet, okay? Now let's look at Ies writing model. Writing is different for general and different for academic tests, though as we saw in the case of reading, there are similarities as well. Now, the Ies writing in terms of both sides, for the academic, you have task 1, which is graphic. You are given a graph or picture to actually summarize or analyze. And then in the general, you write a letter in task 1, write an essay in task 2. In the academic, you write a summary of a graphic, analysis of a graphic or picture or image or diagram in task 1. Then in task 2, you write essay. All right, so that is the way it is. So when you look at the whole thing, you discover that all you need to do is to really get fully prepared. Now, as we already saw, general, now the academic tests, writing has 2 tasks in each module, both for the writing, for the academic and for general. Now, general has letter writing in task 1, essay writing in task 2. In task 1, the letter could be formal, informal, or semi-formal. So you need to prepare and to learn how to write each type of letter. You might be given a formal letter to write, or you might be asked to write an informal letter. It could be a semi-formal letter. Then, in addition to that, of course, for academic, in task 1, you discover that you have summary writing, and in task 2, you have essay writing. In task 1, the summary is based on an image such as a chart, a graph, or a diagram. Okay, so that is exactly the way it is. So let's move on and look at the speaking model. Speaking is usually a one-to-one interaction between the examiner and the candidate, and it is recorded. Speaking has 3 sections, as you can see. Task 1 is a brief introduction, followed by a short question and answer conversation or interview on familiar topics. Then in task 2, task 2 is individual long or extended speaking. The examiner will give you a topic to speak on for about 1 to 2 minutes. You will have a minute to prepare. The examiner will not interrupt during your speech. Now, task 3 is a discussion. The examiner will ask you 5 to 6 questions based on the topic that was given to you in task 2. So make sure that you relax and speak as much as possible and speak naturally and confidently. This actually is very, very important. Okay, this is very, very important. Okay, so that is exactly the way it is. Okay, and let's continue. Let's actually continue with let's continue with other aspects of this particular lesson. Now, we have looked at the Ies speaking model as well. So, and of course, that brings us to the last. Is that? Okay, let me see. Yes, after the Ies speaking, we already looked at other modules, writing module, then the speaking module. And now the last, but not the least item that we are going to look at will be the Ies results and scores. It is important that you understand how the scoring works in the Ies exam so that you can appropriately measure your progress. The exam is graded on a scale of 1 to 9. These grades are known as bands. Now, the overall scores range from 1 to 9. The lowest is 1 and the highest is 9, okay? And but apart from obtaining a good overall score, you also need to pay attention to the scores you obtain in the various modules, because an institution might require certain scores for certain modules. For example, an organization or an institution might want you to obtain 7 or 7.5 band in listening or in speaking, in writing or in reading. So there are some specifications. And so apart from obtaining a good overall score, you might have to get the required scores in some specific modules depending on what your target institution or employing organization actually requires. Okay, so that is exactly the way it is. Okay, so, and this is where we are going to draw the curtain on today's lesson. We have actually been looking at the introduction to the Ies training course. This training course is designed to take you from the beginner stage to the expert stage. And if you have not signed up for this course, make sure you sign up for the course, because this course is a complete package that will actually give you all the tools you need to achieve your dream scores in the Ielts test. Now, the goal of this particular training program is to prepare you so adequately that on the test day, you are going to enter the exam feeling comfortable and confident, because you know exactly what you are going to do. And the results will come because you are going to obtain your dream scores. So I implore you to go ahead and sign up for this course. You will never regret signing up for the course. So go ahead and sign for the course, and I look forward to seeing you in the next class. Goodbye for now, and remain blessed.